Good evening. We're going to call this November 20th, 2024 Brunswick City Commission meeting to order. I want to check and make sure that our city attorney is online before we proceed any further.
I am
All right.
here.
All right, thank you, Brian. Is the mayor online? Okay, all right. We'll proceed on and allow him the opportunity to come in as soon as possibly can. If you would please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Bow heads. Father God, we thank you now for this opportunity to come before you. We thank you now for these people that have gathered here on this evening. We thank you now and ask that you would bless the Dios, God, and you will allow our minds and our hearts to come on one accord as we represent the thoughts, the needs and the movement and the progress of the city of Brunswick. We now, God, for the absent part of this Dios and all of those that are in travel status on this evening. We pray now, God, that you will move us forward in this meeting. Let all decisions be the best decisions for the betterment of the entire community. These things render to you. In the matchless name of Jesus Christ, we pray and we say, amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Again, good evening. It's good to see all of your handsome and beautiful smiling faces. That's including our administrative staff, as well as those from the community. So we welcome you here tonight to our meeting. And as we move on in our agenda, I will ask, are there any addendums or corrections needed to the agenda as presented?
Madam Mayor Pro Temp, I have some not corrections, some addendum to our agenda. I would like to defer in item number 4, the fountain package until December the 18th. The new alcohol license.
Okay,
I also like to note the correction for item number 6 of 44 renewals, alcohol renewals instead of 50.
okay. Any other items that need deferring or?
I do.
Okay,
I'll make a second to those.
okay. I think she have some others. Did
Yeah,
you have
one
something
more.
else? She had something else.
And I'll to defer the license renewals with violations until December the 8th.
Are there specific ones? Are you talking about which ones on
I
which
would name
page?
Friendly Express
On which page?
on page number 4 of our alcohol and renewal pages.
Okay, all right. And so that is the reasoning that the of the decrease in the number of renewal requests from 50 to 44?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And you're wanting to defer those to what date specific?
To December the 18th.
All of the deferrals are to December the 18th. Okay, all right. So we have a request for deferrals, those specific items. I call for a motion to approve the agenda with the corrections as,
Have an additional.
you have an
addendum.
additional?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I have an additional addendum I'd like to make is I move to defer under items to consider for approval items 8, 9, and 10 until December 4th commission meeting.
Okay, with those deferrals, are there any additional items that need to be deferred or amended? There being none, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Call for a vote. Those in favor by the show of your right hands. Is the mayor online? Okay. Opposers have the same right. There being none, the agenda has been amended as presented. That motion carries unanimously. Move on to the next item. Updates. We'll call for an update from Susan Hurley to give an update on the Heritage Tree Labeling Project. Ms. Hurley. If you would, please just introduce yourself and where you live.
Yes, hi, I'm Suzanne Hurley. I live at 908 Carpenter Street. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a little summary. I'm going to give you an update on a small project, which is to label 10 trees in Brunswick. I think we all agree that trees are one of the blessings that we have here in Brunswick. And the goal is so that we could eventually have a tree walk, right? We have several trees that already have labels, but if we have actual number of trees, we could have a tree walk and engage people in an interest in the trees that we have. Similar to, there are several communities that have that. Beaufort, South Carolina has a tree walk, as does St. Mary's and Savannah. Savannah actually called a botanical walk. This builds on the work that the city's already done with the Lover's Oak signage, and they did a tree walk at that time when they renovated the city. And on December 7th, the tree board's conducting a tree walk in Urbana, Perry Park. So this project, it builds on all of that the city's already done. And it's actually funded by the Magnolia Garden Club. So no funds are needed. It's a rare project that's positive where no funds are needed. The 4 partners are City of Brunswick. The tree board has given their approval with Public Works, and DDA has already committed to help develop a brochure. GIFT, does everybody know what GIFT is? I assume you guys all know what GIFT is. No? No, really? Okay. It's Golden Owl's Trees, and it was started to document all the heritage trees, the largest and oldest trees in the area. And they actually measured something like 240 trees, 80 here in Brunswick. So if you see those little green stickers, not stickers, they're tags on the tree about this high, they did that. So they've committed to pay for these signs, and they have a database. They gave each tree a name and a little story that's historical. Most of these trees are public trees. A few are on private property. All right, so you can ask me questions about GIFT later if you like. Clayton County Extension is another partner. I'm a master gardener, and so part of a master gardener's job is to educate about our natural environment. The Magnolia Garden Club, they are also contributing, and this is a project of the Magnolia Garden Club, a member. So these groups, and to kind of summarize, these groups are investing in the community because, this is an example of how you get people to care about the trees and bring their attention to them and engage them. Finally, I just want to say, after visiting St. Mary's, they had a brochure, and I said, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. What I want to do here. And the visitor said, this center said that this is their most popular, that people always take this, and they always love the tree tour, which is self-guided, of course. So I think that's it. Yeah, questions? I would just want to say also, we've identified 10 trees, and there were criteria for these 10 trees, sort of spread throughout the parks, throughout the city, different, you don't want just the same shape of a tree. So I have a map if anyone's interested.
Okay, we thank you, Ms. Hurley, for that presentation. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
Thank you so much for your presentation. I would be interested in a copy of the map.
Okay.
Do you have just one copy or? Okay.
Actually have a summary of the database of the description of each of the trees, if that's not too much information.
if you don't mind sharing that with our city clerk, so that way they can email it to all of us. And it's great.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Exciting
Is
stuff.
it, I'm sorry, is this, are you all working with, I just saw advertisement and it may not be connected with Divina Perry Park Tree Walk?
Yes, yes, I'm part of the tree board now,
Okay, tree, okay.
and they're about to talk about that.
Oh, okay, all right.
I will say that Regina McDuffie, the idea of having one of the trees, it's not on that map, but one of the trees be at the courthouse to attract people to the courthouse, which is a good idea. It's just there's none that are that have been measured there except one big canary. It's called a canary palm. So we could add that to it.
And I think that Commissioner Williams should probably ask, because as I'm looking at the map, then I look, because the North Ward representatives,
Okay.
all of them are in the South Ward.
They are.
So
they
for
are.
example, we have two parks that are in the North Ward. That will be Palmetto Park, Goodyear Park, as well as Orange Park. So I just like to see some attention in part of the city as well.
It's so I have to look at whether trees that are heritage trees in those parks.
Okay,
But we're hoping to have a tree or two each year.
okay.
And if there are, we could certainly measure them and make sure they're included. That would
Oh,
be a priority, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Any other questions? We sure appreciate everything you all are doing, and we look forward to seeing this project come to fruition. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
sending
Thank
the
you.
information tonight. Our next item of business for update, Ms. Jill Wright, Chair from the Brunswick Tree Board, to provide an update on grants and projects.
Good evening, Mayor
Good
Pro
evening.
Tem and Commissioners. We just wanted to take a few minutes to update you on busy year we've had this year. And one of the first things we want to talk about is an event coming up. And Suzanne, who's our newest tree board member, mentioned we're going to do Urbana Perry Park Walk on December 7th at 9 a.m. And we actually partnered with residents of the park to create the walk, and we are going to identify certain trees and do a little education pruning and some other things, hopefully. And I know Annie here, she's we've got technical people on our board, which Annie is more of a technical person. And me, like, I'm just a tree lover. So I don't have the technical background, but I love our trees and we want to keep them and plant more. So, so if Annie, you go ahead and kind of tell everybody what,
Hi, evening. Thank you for having us and speak about the trees, because Brunswick and the Goldens really do have beautiful trees, and they should be honored and taken care of. So one of the things that we have done in the past, we've had walks in other areas of the city, and working with and Anita Collins and Rhonda Waller, we came up with a plan to do a little half-mile walk, leisurely, in the Perry Park, or Bernie Perry Park. And there are, the intent is just to identify trees that are native and some that are more aggressively not native, and trying to educate the schools in regards to how to care for those trees, how to prune them. And we are going to do a measurement of one of the trees next to A. Brown Park, to see if which seems like it would be one of the new heritage trees. We're also working on getting an arborist to come and pruning demonstration. And we've had Jones and Gracie and David Bravo from the city help design the flyers. And there's a QR code that can be used to link to the tree page on the city website. But also what the tree board is doing in February of next, we celebrate Arbor Day every year. And last year we gave over 75 trees away. And this year we are going to have over 70 trees, just small, large canopy trees to be given for the city residents. And it's anything from Acer rubrum, which is a red maple, to river birches, pawpaws, and dahoon hollies. And these are all native trees. Some of them, some people would consider sort of weedy trees, but they're not. They bring the more of a natural environment coexist between the insects and animals that need to be here with us. So just wanted to keep you up to date with that. And if you have any questions, feel free to answer them.
Most of our main initiatives have come about because of grants that we've gotten to be able to provide trees to city residents at no charge.
The Georgia Tree Council is funding free tree giveaway for next year, and they have done that last year also.
And we just went to all of the board members, 5 of us, to the Georgia Tree Council conference on Jekyll last week or
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. And very informative, really good information, mostly what other cities are doing. And, you know, I'm doing a lot of things they are, but maybe a few things that they do that we can get us from. So we look forward to maybe implementing some of those next year.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Jill, and thank you both for being tonight and providing that much needed information to us, keeping us educated of our historical trees. And of course, the city of Brunswick is a tree canopy city.
Yes.
And so we are a tree city. So we surely appreciate everything that it does and how you all continue to help us to maintain that canopy of tree throughout the city of Brunswick. I'm going to take a point of privilege. I see Ms. Collins and Ms. Wall back in the back from the Urbana Perry Park NPA, and just want to acknowledge them. And
Yeah,
I don't know
great.
if you all wanted to give lend conversation to the presentation or not regarding the walk, but want to thank you all for the partnership. And those are things that we enjoy and that continue to encourage within the city of Brunswick, is that the community works with the different boards and committees that the city has. So that's an awesome measure that we can say thank you for. Any questions from the DIOS statements?
Okay, great.
I would just say, you know, my river birch tree is now about 12 feet tall. So thank you for
Whoa.
that. It's doing well.
Yeah.
But also wanted to kind of lean on the tree board a little bit as the city continues to develop and do some additional projects in the city, like our bike and pedestrian pathways. So please know that we are going to try to get you guys engaged in that process of adding, you know, trees and amenities along those pathways, and look forward to you all sharing your expertise with some of those projects. Again, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, is collaboration between all of our entities and organizations is super important. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Ashby's going to come up to Ashby Worley
Okay.
to present the other part of the big project we're working on this year.
Awesome.
So-
Thank you. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Ashby Worley with Nature Conservancy, but also City of Brunswick resident, also on the tree board. So wearing multiple hats here.
Awesome.
I really just want to, I have a couple of slides here to share with you, really just bringing you up to date on 2 large tree related grants, both about $100,000 each. So first one we had brought to you, I think in February, when we came to present just after Arbor Day, and it was about the Urban Tree Resiliency Plan. Next slide. So you'll know who I am. Again, Nature Conservancy. So I work on climate adaptation, helping communities adapt to climate change, which for the city of Brunswick, y'all know is flooding and heat primarily, but of course other challenges as well. Next slide. So what are the threats right now to our tree canopy? And this is not city, but other coastline areas. We have
as you know, kind of an old tree canopy. We have a lot of beautiful old oaks that we say and are several hundred years old. We don't have a lot of young, new trees that are being planted, likely not enough, kind of keep our tree canopy looking the same or not losing tree canopy in the future due to coming down from hurricanes or old age and time. Of course, development and redevelopment also in some of our tree canopy in the city. And as we've seen with Hurricane Helene and others, trees down during hurricanes too. We also know our communities, like I said, are impacted by flooding and heat and will continue to be with climate change. And the graph on the right there is just showing that the increase in the number of days over 95 degrees is going to be about 20 or 30 more days like that by 2050. So as this past summer showed, it's getting hotter here, bringing up the importance of having trees to cool your communities and getting all those other benefits. Next slide. So again, trees we know provide two benefits from human health and mental health for our communities, increased property values, biodiversity and whatnot. But two big on this slide that you can't see in the writing necessarily is that they help cool our communities, decreasing the temperatures, and also help absorb stormwater, which our community experiences both of those. Next slide. Yeah, you can go ahead. So we kicked off this project again, Arbor Day of this year, the $100,000 grant from Wells Fargo Foundation that they presented to the Nature Conservancy, ultimately do this project, create an urban tree resiliency plan for the city of Brunswick. We were then able to turn around and hire Green Infrastructure Center, which is based out of Charlottesville, Virginia. Done a lot of work in Georgia with other communities on assessing their tree canopy and tree ads and kind of bringing about recommendations and data and science to help guide communities on how to manage their trees moving forward for climate and community health. So we contracted with them in about May or June of this year and kicked off this project. Next slide. So one of the first things that we did is create a stakeholder steering committee. Commissioner Saby is on this committee, as well as 27 representatives from the various categories here. They meet monthly, second Tuesday of every month around 1:30 to 3, I believe. And we also welcome the city commissioners. If you're ever interested, please join us. We can certainly extend an invitation, whether you want to drop or, join any of the meetings. We do it Zoom as well as in person when possible. Next slide. This is just a timeline to show you where we're at in this process. When we contracted with Green Infrastructure, we really wanted to make this somewhat of a quick process, about a year-long assessment of data and the stakeholder engagement to ultimately come up with a plan that's usable and being able to implement as soon as possible. So we're about halfway through that process. On the screen, you'll see different topics that are already covered, like tree canopy analysis, ecosystem services. Consultants have come down a couple of times and had interviews with staff and looked at the codes and orders and done reviews of all of this in order to provide recommendations. And they're kind of working those through the conversations that we're having. So you can expect by early next year a survey, public survey to go out on this subject, as well as an open house and ultimately a draft plan for everyone to review, for you to review. And hopefully, again, the goal is to present a draft implementation plan for the city to adopt and ultimately to be working on implementing. Next slide. So a couple of preliminary results to show you. This is an assessment of the tree canopy in the city of Brunswick. So about 30% of our community is covered in trees, which is similar to other communities our size. Next slide. With a lot of this data and also understand where those potential planting areas. So I know that a lot of community groups want to do plantings, and ultimately we kind of scratch our heads and say, where should these go? I know Ford Brunswick had some of those same questions when they did their Liberty Tree project. So this is a great map, actually shows us where are those potential planting areas. So it's about 365 acres that are plantable in the community, which if we were to plant, there's no way you could plant all of this, but it is a good guide to help show us where are those areas if we plant trees or have access to funds for planting more trees or more efforts. Next slide. What's nice about this analysis too is it shows you the zoom in to the areas that are absorbing the most stormwater in our community. So you can see areas around the college and kind of the north part of the city are probably forested areas, and they're absorbing our most amount of stormwater. And so those are important for protecting because it keeps stormwater off our streets and ultimately helps prevent it from going into our waterways. And with each of these workshops, the workshops ultimately call these example strategies that we can implement. So we're kind of collecting those through the conversations and seeing what fits in the plan at the end here. Next slide. Currently, for water quality and quantity for the city, the current tree canopy is absorbing 9.1 million gallons of stormwater per every 4-inch rain. So it's pretty significant. And ultimately, that also shows the types of pollutants that canopy is also helping to absorb. Slide. This map helps show us where if trees were planted, they would also help retain more stormwater. So this is kind of helping us guide where can future plantings go to help with our flooding challenge. And this is just an example of some of the Glen Middle area that is experiencing, but could ultimately benefit from tree plantings. Next slide. We also know that flooding can create challenges for trees, especially if it's saltwater. This is a map showing areas that are going to be inundated either by sea level rise or high tides or the combination of that. And so these are areas we should be looking out for. Either if we do a planting there, make sure it's salt tolerant trees. Also, to monitor the health of the trees in those areas because they could be declining after the events. So saltwater is not necessarily good for most of our trees. So next. This is probably my favorite slide of all of them. It's about areas that are high temperature in our community that could benefit from trees helping cool those communities. And this is ultimately pairing census data, and especially where potential planting areas coincide hot areas of the city and also around low income populations. So where trees be planted that help cool these communities, especially in low income areas where they could benefit the most in these projects. Next slide. This is showing where heat may be actually stressing some of our existing trees. So some of the darker and purple areas are areas that are oftentimes surrounded by a lot of concrete and are going to be experiencing a lot of stress and heat. And so these trees may be experiencing decline as the community gets hotter. Next slide. And then one of the last workshops we did was looking at the results of their analysis of the codes and ordinances. So they actually looked through a lot of the content that the city already has, scored it based on, how well is it mentioning trees in these parts of the ordinance, helping protect trees. So it's not necessarily a particular score is good or bad, but it helps guide us on where we can improve or maybe adopt new ordinances or tweak ordinances or policies to help improve our tree canopy. So it helps kind of provide a map as well. Next slide. So ultimately, across the building the health of our trees in our community and a tree program, urban tree resiliency plan is certainly one aspect of this. The tree board and the ordinance already have is another. But if you'll go ahead and click the next couple more, it'll circle the others. There's actually another grant. Couple more clicks, sorry. There you go, perfect. There's another grant that the city was actually just awarded, and there's a phone call in a couple of weeks to discuss the details. It's a Georgia Forestry Trees Across Georgia grant, which is $180,000 for the city to ultimately either do a tree inventory or hire a time arborist for the next 3 years. So there's going to be discussions going on about which of those needs do we have. We applied for both. They gave us half the money, said you got to pick one. So to have those discussions. But ultimately, this should help implement the plan as well as improve the health of the urban forest here in the city. And again, just zero cost to this on all of this, but beyond generous staff time from folks like Chris Jones and Rick Charnock to ultimately have a tree resiliency plan, the arborist tree giveaway at Arbor Day, and then these tree walks. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions, please let me know as well.
Ashby, we appreciate you so much for not just being a citizen and representing the city of Brunswick as a citizen, but as a member of the Conservancy. So we appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Jill, you're doing an awesome job as at the helm of the tree board. So we appreciate all the work and all of the synergy that you all have going on that tree board at present. And we appreciate it. We look forward to having everything come to fruition. Are there any questions or statements any of the other commissioners want to make?
I have a question, and I would just want to make sure in her presentation, what, I know it's important that our canopy is healthy and safe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you identify trees, you mentioned old, that
Mhm.
needs to be removed from the canopy?
Yeah,
Because,
so
we
maybe
are
that's
in a
tree board
hurricane area,
presentation.
all those storms, and,
Yeah.
it's like it's a double-edged sword. I'm just, yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, at this time, we really only have jurisdiction over public trees. Obviously, homeowners can, do what they want with trees on their own property. But it's something that we discuss quite often, trees that are in line. If trees are brought to our attention that could be a safety issue, we will review those trees and determine whether they need to be taken down or pruned back or something that can keep the tree going. But yeah, I mean, it's something that, we encounter all the time, with people saying, what about this tree? What about that tree? And so I think having this information that the green infrastructure has done will really help us to strategize where to put new trees so that we can balance as old trees decline and eventually come down or we remove. There are certain areas that are better to put trees than others. So that's kind of where this report comes in and really helps us to be able to figure that out without just looking, but it really gets data.
Well, and the potential of having a part-time arborist
Yes.
that could really evaluate trees appropriately.
Yeah,
I think that's a good
exactly.
route to
That we
go
really,
as
yeah,
well,
are
yeah.
excited.
And I think also with the next workshops that we have, the next one is about storm readiness and critical infrastructure. So that, I think that topic is going to come up there, as well as tree equity. A lot of communities and people don't have the money to take down dangerous trees. And so that's a challenge. So are there programs or ordinances or something like that that could be tweaked to help individuals in that way? I think these are topics that will certainly be coming up in the plan.
Thank you so much. You all have done an excellent job. Appreciate you.
Can I make a
Thank
comment?
you.
A comment? Very interesting that you present this information. City manager and myself just got back GCCMA. It's a city and county manager conference that was here on June. And we heard a presentation on AI. And part of that presentation, there was a city manager from Sandy Springs who used some very cool cutting edge technology to predict tree canopy in Sandy Springs and where it would, the best places to plant and some other things that they use the technology to figure out because they're working aggressively to create a lot of tree canopy in Sandy Springs. So was willing to share that information. So if you guys would be open to that, we could maybe reach out.
Just a snippet of the
Yes.
information they
Well,
gave us.
what they showed was mind blowing, and they are looking for a lot of tree coverage in Sandy Springs,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't think. In that technology, they were able to project a lot of good information to help that goal. So it might be something worth looking into just to see what else we can glean from our city.
Yeah, no, we'd welcome that. We'd love for you to send that our way. And
Yeah, we were
can-
blown. It was great stuff. We were all blown away. So
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
great.
It's scary when you look at.
Yes. Well, that was the other half of the debate was the AI, but for these it was great. So I was really happy to see that. Okay, thank you.
And I'd just like to say one more thing to the board members who've been really awesome. And Bonetta, Bryson Kitts was taken off the board. She resigned. But she's been a great
Yes.
member of the tree board for many years and we miss her. And then Chris Jones and Rick Sharnock have been just wonderful to work with, very helpful for everything that we've done. So
We
appreciate
do want to extend a thank you to our staff and their dedication to the tree board, just to the city, at large. And so we just want to say thank you. We also want knowledge, Ms. Kitts and the contributions that she made in getting the tree board back going.
Yes.
So
For
we
sure.
appreciate all of the hard work that, both, Mr. and Ms. Kitts, put towards, helping these things to come to pass. So thank you all for, for hearing. Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna move on along in the agenda to public hearing, new alcohol beverage licenses. And this is going to be, gonna have those that will speak for or against, the public hearing for the, new alcohol beverage licenses. We're gonna be, Mr. Hunter is going to make that presentation. And again, let's remember, this is a public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just a quick overview. Akash Patel, the owner of Sunoco Food Mart #1 at 4528 Altama Avenue, has put in an application for retail beer and wine sales. The background check and fingerprinting have been completed. They passed the background check, no issues. The distance requirements under our ordinance have all been met. I'm a little unclear. I had put packet that they had been to the NPA meeting, but I just noticed a note that that had changed. The applicants, I believe, are here. Were you able to go to the EA meeting for the neighborhood meeting? No. They had changed the date, and it happened to fall right in the middle of when Deputy Marshall was going out on medical leave, and I know that fully got communicated. But everything else has been from our requirements.
Okay. This is a public hearing. And so we will, before, open it up to the Ds, we will call for, those to speak for or against. Would the applicant like to speak, and say anything to address the Dios before, allow the public to speak for or against? And introduce yourself, please.
My name is Akash Patel.
Speak into the mic.
My name is Akash Patel. Applying for the beer and wine license for that Sunoco on Altama community. Desperately need it. It's, the premier had it and they did very well with it. And in the 3 months that I've been there without it, it's a decline drastically. So you have repeat customers that are coming through, and now they're like, after the hurricane, back-to-back hurricanes, I know everything got delayed, but some of them still circled around, and now they're on the verge of like, okay, well, we're not going to come here anymore if you can't get this. So it's kind of been difficult. And so when they walk in the store, you still have 3 doors that are empty. So they walk in, they look over, and they just go, walk right back out. So it's been difficult to take it over and try to find new ways to bring more people in.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ms.
No,
Patel.
thank you.
We're gonna have, before, you can stay there, or you can sit, Mr. Hunter. You can sit by Mr. Hunter, and then we'll call you back up, because we're gonna open up for public hearing, and then we will allow the Dios to address, Patel. So now we're gonna give you about 2 minutes to, for anyone that wants to speak for or against the granting of this new alcohol beverage license for Sunoco Food Mart #1, owner Akash Patel at 4528 Alma Avenue, for the permitting of retail sales, beer and wine. The floor is open. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, City Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to read a statement because this is the public hearing portion, but there'll be overlap to the renewals as well. It's a general statement. Brunswick, Georgia. The 2020 my name is Anita Collins, Brunswick, Georgia resident. The 2020 U.S. Census facts for the city of Brunswick records the population for the city of Brunswick at 15,215 and the 2024 predicted population at 15,467. The 2020 U.S. Census facts for the city of Brunswick records the population per square mile at 893.7 individuals. The U.S. Census Facts 20 Census Facts records the number of persons living in poverty in the city of Brunswick at 30.8%. The boundary area for the city of Brunswick is 17.08 square miles. Boundary water area for the city of Brunswick is 8.18 square miles. Within the city of Brunswick, just the city, there are 2 grocery stores, Wendy and Cost Cutter, formerly Save-A-Lot. One's on the very south end of the city, the other is on the very north end of the city. Aside from downtown Brunswick, what is in the family restaurants within the city of Brunswick? Other than Howard Coffin Park, what community buildings are available for neighborhood residents? However, one's very clear. The city of Brunswick truly leans into licensed establishments that provide beer, wine, and the lottery for city residents. On tonight's agenda are 2 new alcohol beverage license requests and 50 license renewals of alcoholic beverages for the city of Brunswick. Our MPA has repeatedly brought our concerns to the attention of city officials, and we will continue to do so until you make a decision to improve the quality of life for the city of Brunswick. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Rhonda Waller, Wilson Avenue is my residence, city of Brunswick. I guess my question first is, I know it's public comment. Will there be an opportunity to make public comment about the renewals? Because I could reserve my statement. No?
No.
Okay, so I will continue my statement. I want to bring attention, I will email a copy of this to all of you, to a CD study that is in the area of preventing chronic disease, using public health and community partnerships to reduce density of alcohol outlets. We know all of the harms that are attributed to alcohol and drug abuse. There are strategies, there's research and there are strategies that support the reduction of the density of alcohol establishments in communities, specifically a city as small as Brunswick. We're a large city, we are absolutely not. However, it struck me to look at the agenda and have, I know we reduced the number to 44 for today, but to have 50 renewals and adding more, 2 new establishments. It has to stop eventually. I would love to see these alcohol beverage restaurants give to the community. The requirement or the suggestion that a potential new establishment comes to the MPA, I think is a first step. I'm never one to complain about offering a solution. My recommendation would be to the commission for a ad hoc committee to, in the words of this particular study, to look for coalition, a network of local coalitions and coalition membership that will look at how Brunswick should use the density of alcohol and beverage establishments. There is in this study that I will both leave with you and email to you recommendations of ways that this can be done using local zoning and land use regulations to influence the density of establishments. Some of them include limiting the number of alcohol outlets, specific geographic unit, limiting the number of outlets per population, so forth. I'll leave this with you all to consider. As MPA, we are going to be holding these establishments responsible and encouraging them to participate in the process of the MPA, both when they need a renewal and on a regular basis. If you're in the community, then you should support the community. Imagine if all 50 of these establishments committed to paying for camp for a child, or committed to helping with a senior who needs some refurbishment to their home or their yard cut or what have you. I think there are better solutions than adding to the number of establishments that there currently are. I know there isn't much we can do with those who are applying for renewals. But I think there's time to have a moratorium on adding more liquor stores. Let's add some restaurants and recreation centers. That's all I have to offer. And can you email it to me? Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Collins and Ms. Waller. We will now open it up to the DIAS to ask any questions of the applicant.
Mr. Patel mentioned that you just recently purchased the store.
Mhm.
How long ago was that purchase?
End of July.
Oh, the end of July? And when you purchased the store, did you realize that you would not have the ability to sell beer and wine?
Well,
Like-
we purchased it obviously because it was already existing. So I also own the IGA in Woodbine. And just like with that, kind of similar to this, you just apply for the new application to continue business as is. Most new businesses, when they take over something else, they want to operate as is, because you look at the numbers that are already there, that's what drives us into there.
Do you have anything else within your store that, describe what you see in your store and what other, new that you receive within your store?
So it's a convenience store. So you have cigarette and tobacco, have your drinks, but it's also not a very large store like you walk into Friendly's or Parker's. Very small amount of doors, only 7 doors there. And then you have coolers. So I recently did what the owner didn't do it before for the community was I got EBT back in this.
Go.
It's EBT,
EBT?
right.
Okay.
Unfortunately though, with that, people still have to come in and they want an option to get everything they want to get. So even with the EBT, the sales have maybe only increased to $100 a month.
Do you have, lottery machines within, or you sell lottery within
do.
your store?
Yep, we just got that approved last month.
You just added machines last month?
But along with that, that's, generally when you walk into a convenience store, most people walk in, they want to grab their beer, they want to grab their cigarettes, they want the lottery, and then convenience aspect of it.
Do you sell gasoline up there? No gas?
When I purchased the place, the pumps were not in any condition working. So we're trying to get them to come out and take a look at that. But I also have to, look at coming through first. Essentially, there's work to be done, but a position where I didn't, I would assume that it was just going to be mainly the hurricane, the holdup,
The hurricane,
The
the transition.
process is taking longer, so we're 3 months into it now, and we're just like, okay, how much longer before we found if it's going to be possible or not,
Since you mentioned about the IGA in Woodbine, how long did you have you own the IGA in Woodbine?
3.5 years.
Okay. Thank you.
And also going through problems with that
Oh,
after the hurricane. So it's been crazy.
right.
Any other questions? My only question, now would be, you're not having spoken with the NPA. And I did have conversation with, Mr. with Pastor Mutchinson, and I asked him if there had been any attempt to speak with him, and he received anything. So for me on tonight, I would have you to speak with the NPA before we would move to do anything else, but that's only from my seat. It is the pleasure of the Dios as to how we move forward. But I know that he is looking forward to hearing from you. And that would be my recommendation moving forward. But again, it's case of the Dios and how our city attorney advises that we should move in this. But that is our guidance for all of those applicants that are looking to sell the beer and wine, is that they have a sit down with that community that they're going to be in and have conversation with that community. So I would like you have that conversation with the Magnolia Park College NPA before we move forward on it. So I'll open it up to the Dios.
Can I have city staff just clarify you alluded to maybe some miscommunication regarding that and
Yeah.
having our staff on long-term leave, and so
Yeah,
that's
so
a very valid that Mayor Pro Tem brings up. I just want to make sure I
yeah,
understand
so
the timeline and what happened.
the first notice was that that they had that they were communicated that the NPA meeting was going to be on the third, first that it was the 20th, but then of September, but then it was for the 31st of September, but then it was moved to the first week of November. So there seems to have been some confusion amongst our staff about when that meeting was taking place, and it wasn't fully communicated to staff or found by staff and fully communicated to the applicant.
So the applicant was waiting for us to let him
I
know
think so.
when
Yeah.
the date of the meeting was. Okay.
John.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, does Mr. Patel have the contact information to the chairperson of the College Park, Magnolia Park?
I don't believe so. No,
So
I can handle that.
that needs to be provided because that particular NPA actually meets
I
virtually.
assume, yes.
So to say miss the time, who's gonna send him the link to Zoom, So it's a misfortune, but it's a process that we have, that there is some communication. Giving him the email, and if it was confirmed and discussed, Mr. Pastor Reverend Mustardson would have said, yes, Mr. Patel has reached out and tried to inform us of his desire to be in our community. That's the part where what we need, I need.
Yeah.
All right. So are there any other questions? Brian, do you want to weigh in on this?
I guess just to the extent of what the will of the commission is. If I knew where everyone was leaning, obviously the ordinance does set forth that the applicant needs to meet with the MPA. There are provisions in there as to how to contact them, but in the event that doesn't sound like there's been multiple instances where there's been attempted communication, that the city commission can defer and bring back. So I'll leave that there, but it's before you, the public hearing has taken place, and if you wanted to make a decision to approve or deny, you could do that tonight. But I understand the reluctance with the provision related to the MPA.
Right. So what is the will of the commission at this time? Make a motion to either defer or to move on with how we want to vote on it. What's all of the Dios?
I move that we go ahead and make a decision tonight, because we'll keep dragging this along.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So we have the application for a new alcohol license for retails of beer and wine. I will entertain a motion to either approve or deny the application. Approve or deny?
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the alcohol and beverage license for Oco Food Mart #1.
We have a motion. Is there a second? I'll make that second. I'll call for a vote. We have a motion has been made to approve the retail sales of beer and wine for Sunoco Food Mart #1 at 4520 Altama Avenue. It has been seconded by I call for a vote for those in favor of the motion that has been presented by a show of your hand. Opposers having the same right.
Nay. Nay. I do not.
I deny.
We are at a stalemate.
Is the mayor on?
The mayor, no.
He's not
We're
on.
at a
That would,
stalemate, Brian. How do we proceed?
that, the motion fails.
The motion goes. And so how would we move on? We have to reapply, or what would be the next step, Brian?
It could be, yeah, it would be a reapplication, but at the present, since there was not an approval.
Okay. We would have to reapply, and what's that time frame? So John would get information to him for the reapplication or reapplying.
Well, I'd have to look at our ordinance, because since it failed for lack of a majority, there is a provision in the ordinance, and I think we would just need to get with the applicant, because I do think there's a time period in which an application cannot be brought forward again. I believe it's 6 months.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Hunter, we would want you to please make sure that you follow up with Mr. Patel to provide him the necessary information regarding the next step. Any additional comments?
Yeah, Mr. Can you just clarify, since that motion was failed, so the motion to approve, does that automatically make this application a denial, or does there need to be an additional motion and a vote for the denial? Or is it just the motion to approve was failed?
That's a good question. I think since the motion to approve failed, I don't read that as a denial. But I would have to look into that to make a determination on it. In essence, since there was not a majority, it did not approve tonight, and that's as it stands. I'm going to look at our ordinances to see if that would trigger the 6 month period.
Okay. All right. So pending the review by our city council, Mr. Hunter, I'm sorry, yeah, city council. When I say council, I mean our attorney. We will follow back up with you, Mr. Hunter. We'll follow back up with you for the steps. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate your coming in on tonight. All right.
Now I would encourage staff to communicate with them still the meeting.
Yes,
Information.
and please make sure that he gets Pastor Hutchison's information. All right, moving on to items to consider approval. Item number 5, consider approval of October 30th, 2024 special called meeting, number 624 work session, and regular scheduled meeting minutes. Mr. Williams, would you be presenting anything regarding that? Okay. All right. So that item is up for approval. I'll entertain a motion. Everyone should have those minutes to be able to read those minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve October 30th, 2024 special call meeting, as well as the November 6th, 2024 work session and regular schedule meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve those minutes as presented. Call for those in favor by show of your right hand.
Aye.
Opposers having the same right, that motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 6, consider approval of 44 alcohol renewals, alcohol license renewals. Mr. John Hunter is presenting.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You have in your packet the list of alcohol license holders who have presented their information, their licensing fees for 2025. The first 4 in your list are up for renewal tonight. And as you stated, the final page will be deferred to the later meeting. All of these have passed their updated background checks and paid all fees required.
So are we at liberty to take these, Ryan, all 44 of these one time, or do we need to break anything up?
No, if those have been removed, and these are all renewals of currently operating businesses without violations, you can take them all at one time.
Okay, is that the pleasure of the DIOS to take all of these at one time? All right, so I will entertain a motion to consider approval of the 44 alcohol license renewals.
I
Floor-
move,
Go ahead.
you,
Yeah, floor is open for the motion.
okay. I move that we accept the 44 alcohol license renewals.
Motion's made. Can I get a second? Motion has been made and second for the approval of the 44 alcohol renewal license as presented. We will call for a vote. Those in favor by the show of your right hand. Opposers having the same right, that motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to item.
I have one point,
sorry,
if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind point up. I do want to just make an announcement for the public that we heard the citizen input, and we've been concerned about the amount of alcohol and beer sales in our community, at least since I've been elected, and I know previous commissioners before that were concerned about that point, where we've been asked staff to map out all of these locations and the different types of distributions and licenses. These that we just approved did not have any violations, and that's why I think I was personally comfortable with them. But I do want to let the public know that we do hear you, that we are working at some potential solutions to help alleviate some of the excess that we see in certain neighborhoods and certain communities. So, thank you for that.
And I'll just kind of piggyback on Commissioner Sabi's statement. Your voices are not being overheard. I mean, unheard. We are moving to make sure that we are considering how we move in granting these licenses. That's why it had incorporated in our ordinances that the applicants must go to the community meetings, sit down, have conversations with that community in which they are potentially wanting to be a part of, so that everyone has a voice in the consideration of these matters. So it's a balancing act to make sure that we are being business friendly, but we're also being considerate of those communities in which locations are being placed, and everyone has that equitable opportunity for their voices to be heard as we continue to be a city that is welcoming to both our citizens as well as to business. But we are requiring to whom much is given, much is expected. And so if you're expecting to come into these communities, into our community, we're expecting you to be vested in our communities and to make a difference, impact in those communities in a positive way. So we do hear the citizens and concerns. And so we are working on those things. And as Commissioner Sabi said, We've gotten the map, so we will be taking a more, intentional look at where the locations are and the concentration of these locations, as well as the saturation of these locations within our communities. So we're hearing everybody's voice, and we're trying to balance those voices as they're being heard. So thank you all, everyone, for your input on tonight. All right, so with that being said, we'll move on to number 7. We'll move on to item number 7, which will be presented by ACM Burquest.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commission. Brunswick has a long history of providing an award during the holiday season to show our appreciation for our city employees and their hard work throughout the year and their contributions to the well-being of our city, citizens, and other employees. This administration proposes a payment or an award in appreciation for our employees for the upcoming holiday season. $100 gift awards will be provided for all-time employees and officials, and a $50 award will be provided to all part-time and current seasonal employees. The payment will be made as a separate deposit from their regular payroll. And currently, the city has 212 full-time employees, as well as 15 part-time and seasonal employees, which the payment will be applicable. The estimated cost revision, $24,113.60, that was paid from the general fund. We're asking the commission's approval, the holiday season gift.
All right, we've heard the request for approval of the purchase of the gift award to our staff. What is the pleasure? We will hear from the Diaz.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go
What
ahead.
was the total cost again?
$24,113.60.
And how do we get the odd cents? Is it because it's tax?
Not only tax, but there's also pension and other things that we have to take into consideration. If not, you give them 100 and they'd only receive, 85 of it are
percentage of
applied. Yeah, so there's, I don't know the exact math. You add a little bit to that. So after taxes and pension and other things, FICA, it is a $100 payment on the dot.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other concerns? Go ahead.
You said you added something so it could be a 100 that would go into your account, or?
Yeah, so if we paid them $100 even,
Okay.
and we used gift cards. That was easy because it was just $100. But they no longer, the bank does no longer provide that option. So we had to get creative to give employees the same award because we've been doing this for a lot of years. So we decided to put it as a separate entry on their payroll. So they will actually get an additional $100 deposit, direct deposit. But when we do that, it's considered payroll. And for that reason, we have to compensate for taxes, both federal and state, and then pension. And so in calculating, we have to give them, I think it's like 114 and some change. And then when those come out, it makes it 100 even.
Okay. Thank you for the
Yep.
explanation.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or concerns? I will call for a motion approval to purchase the gift award cards or gift awards.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the provision of a holiday payment for our employees or a gift award in the amounts
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second for the approval of the gift awards. Call for a motion. Those in favor by a show of your right hand. Opposers having the sight. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Request.
Thank you, Commission.
All right, looking at our agenda, the remaining items having been deferred, item number 8, item number 9 and 10 having been deferred, date specific to 12/4/24. We have come to the end of our printed agenda. Is there need for executive session?
There is for litigation.
All right. We will make a motion.
I'd like to
You have a
make,
comment?
no, I was gonna make the
Okay.
motion.
Okay, we have a motion, that we move into executive session. What, you said for what, litigation?
Litigation, yes, ma'am.
Okay, executive session is needed litigation. Can I have a motion,
So
to
moved.
move into? Okay, we have a motion made. Can I get a
Second.
motion has been made and second to move into executive session? Thank you. We've returned back from executive session. No votes were taken in executive session. I move for a motion to adjourn.
I move for adjourn.
Motion has been made and second. We will now move into adjournment. Everybody enjoy yourselves, enjoy your holidays. Although, I'm sorry, I don't move ahead of myself. All those in favor by show of your right hand.
Aye.
Opposers having the same right. That motion carries unanimous. Everyone enjoy your holiday and happy Thanksgiving.